So yes, we can start.
Good evening, everyone. I welcome all students and the panelists here for the third and the final session for students once they arrive in Canada for their higher studies. And as it is the episode 3, the topic for today is the resources they would require and they can acquire. I believe we would be having quite insightful takeaways today for all the students. How the session that I have planned is, before I give you the introductions, is that once we go to the question answer session, there have been some regular students who've been attending our program. So we'll have a little insights from you guys also as to what have been your takeaways from all these 3 sessions. So just be prepared just for a 15-minute shout out and a talk for us that will help us build up our series furthermore, useful for you students. All right. So as I said, I don't think so. Dr. Anupma Sharma needs any further introductions. She's been the highlight so far with all the students and the community out there. Of course, as a life coach and as a empowerment media person that she's been, and she's been counseling students who are coming to Canada for their higher studies. I think she is one person from PCC who has been up and about as much as possible. So living to the ethos of PCC. Aarti, you could help us put on the slideshow. That would be just great. So as you guys see, PCC is 18 chapters, 5 countries, 4 continents. And since 2017, we are a community and we are building up ourselves a much more stronger with diversity and inclusion. Further, when I go to the next slide, which gives us an insight into the chambers, the 18 chapters that you see are all across the globe, starting from the US to Canada to the UK to India and going down under the Australian continent. So Sydney is one of our very recent chapters that we've added, and we look forward to getting all the chapters together. I believe the participants are mainly from India who have been attending these sessions because that's where maximum students migrate. So, but having said that, we've built a very strong, community of the Global Youth Squad through these sessions, where students from Canada for these particular 3 series have come together with the students here in India. Could we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is something that we need to see, that how Punjabi Chamber of Commerce is contributing towards the growth of the youth, and youth not only in India but globally as well. And also the foundation, the Punjabi Chamber Foundation, works extensively contributing towards the COVID that has hit all of us across the globe. And there has been relief efforts which have gone in. Could we move forward, please? As we mentioned, that unity is our strength at PCC. Apart from that, we have the 6 C's that we work. And of course, those 6 C's further narrow down to the 3 C's. That's capital building, capacity, and community building. So I think this session definitely is going to talk about a lot about the resources, how we're going to build it up as a community, capacity, and capital for our youths. Could we move forward, please? Of course, with all the student 21 of us that I see here, my request as a Mumbai chapter, as board of director, would be that if you are attending our sessions and you're not a member of PCC, do become a member, because that's how you're going to get closer to us. You're going to get closer to Anupma, to the young panelist students who are going to give you a lot of insights. And that's how you're going to get connected to, an organization like Suno, which is going to definitely help you out. We've been hearing a lot about it. So there are a lot of benefits for you as students to become members of PCC. Yeah. So could we move forward, please? Oh, well, that's a little about myself. As I mentioned, I'm on board of directors. I'm also heading the membership committee for PCC, and I'm a co-chair for Mumbai chapter. And that's something that gives me a lot of confidence when I present myself along with Anupma here. So going further with Anupma Sharma, who has been the highlight for all these sessions. Of course, not less that I would say, but so much has been, a lot of sharing that she's been doing as a life coach and a certified empowered specialist, especially with the youth that I have interacted with her. There is so much that, we as professionals and as students need to take from her. So having said that, she's also doing a lot of work with Suno that I also got a lot enlightened about this organization. I'm so glad. And I keep talking about it, Anupma. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes. And we have our student panelist, which I would request, Anupma, if you can give us a little insight before we start our session on resources. I would want to bring in Anupma in and put myself on mute. As I mentioned, the program is going to be designed again exactly for an hour. We're going to hear all our panelists. We're going to have some insights from you as participants. What have you taken away from these 3 sessions? Third thing is that we want you to become members of PCC. And of course, you can put in your comments for us to take back of these series. Thank you very much. Anupma, over to you, and I go on mute.
Thank you so much, Harpreet. Thank you to the Global Youth Squad and Punjabi Chamber of Commerce for putting this series together. So I'm waiting to find out if one of our other student panelists is going to be joining. It is 7:30 in the morning here. So I've sent some text. Let's see what happens, fingers crossed. But I also have an amazing panelist who is going to be talking during this webinar. Her name is Nishat Varani. I'm going to give a little bit about who she is and how we met. And then I'll kind of mention the work that Nishat has done. So Nishat and I connected in the latter part of last year, and we instantly connected. I have physically not met Nishat yet. This is the second time I'm virtually seeing her, but I feel like we probably have a connection from a past life or something. So she's from Mumbai, living here in Canada, came here actually during the pandemic. So Harpreet and Nishat, both of you are from Mumbai, so there might be some conversations that the two of you might be having later on. Just to let you know, Nishat is a social worker registered with the Ontario College of Social Workers. She has a master's in mental health from Tata Institute in Social Sciences in Mumbai and has been working with nonprofits for more than 3 years. And she enjoys working with youth and children. She's also worked on mentorship programs empowering youth and children who are at risk. And as I mentioned, she's only been in Canada for a little bit over a year. But the work that she's doing is amazing. And I'm so glad that we have partnered with Nishat and the organization that she works for with Suno, because it's much needed. So you'll be hearing about Nishat shortly. But Aarti, if you can pull up the PowerPoint for the presentation. Thank you so much. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so all the participants that are watching, please feel free to put in your questions in the chat box. and we will be answering them towards the end of the session. We will try our best to answer as many questions as we can, but if we can't, then I can share my information with you, that if you don't feel comfortable asking in the chat group, that we can have conversations offline. So here are some resources that we have for international students. So the way we broke it up is to provide resources for students that are doing schooling virtually because of the pandemic, and then on campus. So when planning to come to Canada, it would be great to research the schools you're thinking of going to attend. And I think it's really important. So one of the students that we have as our peer mentors had mentioned that there is pre-arrival session that colleges and universities have for the students before they come here. She had said that there's at least maximum 20% students attend those sessions. And they give you a lot of information, but 80% of the students don't attend. So it's a good way for you to prepare yourself before you're coming here and know, okay, what kind of resources can the school offer me, and what is the campus going to offer? So make sure that if you're going to colleges and the universities, go and attend the session. If you don't, then I would contact an advisor at that school. Some questions to ask: what types of supports do they have on campus? Virtually, for students that are doing online, okay? What kind of health coverage does this plan offer? And are there services on campus that are culturally appropriate? Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what kind of health coverage does their plan offer. So in order to come to Canada, you need to have health coverage to go to school. So a part of the fees that you're paying to come here, by law, you're supposed to have health coverage. But there's not a lot of explanation as to what that health coverage costs. So when you're planning to come here, it's important to factor that you might need to add some more money for health related costs. What we're working on currently, because we know that this is becoming a bigger issue for students, they have to pay $60 every time they want to go and see a doctor. And that's just to see a doctor. That's not filling your prescription, having to go do tests, etc. So what I've been told is that the health coverage covers only minimum coverage. So God forbid you get sick or something happens, you have to pay out of pocket. So please get as much information as you can to find out what that health coverage offers. As to know what I mentioned, we're trying to partner with organizations and with doctors that might offer pro bono services. So this is something we're working on this year. Are the services on campus culturally appropriate? So I'd like to share why I think this is very important. So the schools have said that they offer services, that they have social workers, they have counselors, etc. But a lot of them might not know the intricacies of our culture, let alone speak the language. You know, sometimes people feel more comfortable talking to someone that looks like them, that speaks their language. Sono had reached out to every college and university here in Ontario. We got response from 2. And their response was, great work you're doing. Let us know how it goes with the colleges and come back and talk to us. So nobody wanted to be the first college. We got interviewed by some media here and brought up the issues that are affecting international students. That's when the colleges started to connect with us, because we called them out on not having culturally appropriate services. So Sano is filling that gap. If there's no counseling, no culturally appropriate services, we offer those services by students and by organizations that look like you and speak your language. So on campus, it's important to know how accessible and beneficial it would be for you. So is there an international student center? If there is, great. It's a really good place for you to network and to get to know other students. And other students are a good sense of resource. And I've mentioned this before, that when it comes to connecting with the students, their network is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So I was born here in Canada. There's been people from India coming here since the 60s and 1970s, but I've never seen a group of individuals so connected, so close, sharing resources like the students do. So this is phenomenal how the students know how to support each other. Professors are also a good resource. There's a lot of professors that we've been told by our students that they have been a good resource and help them be connected. And then there's also counselors on campus, off campus, SNOs, and the agencies that we've partnered with. Arti, can I get the next slide, please? Okay, so as I mentioned, the more resources that we have. So SNO has partnered with a few employment agencies. So I've broken this down based on the needs of what students have mentioned are the issues that they face when they come here. So we have partnered with online agencies as well as physical centers. So because of COVID, a lot of people don't feel comfortable going into the center. There's 4 employment agencies that we've connected with. So Top Notch Employment Services, they offer jobs, labor jobs, but they also offer jobs in certain fields. I like the way Top Notch runs their company for a few reasons. The person who started the company, he's Guyanese, Indian Guyanese, but he likes to help and support newcomers. That is his passion. He has hired an international student to work specifically with international students. That speaks volumes for me that he's thinking ahead, and he knows that there's going to be a lot of students coming in and they'll feel comfortable with an international student working there. iWorks, this app was created specifically for international students in mind. The person who started this, his name is Rakesh Naidu. He is the executive director of a chamber of commerce in Windsor. This man knew that there's a gap working with international students, so this is why he created this app. What you can do is, let's say you only have 4 hours that you need a job, you want $100 for that day. You can say, listen, I can help somebody move, get $100. He connects you and shows you what's available. Very, very great person. He's taken money out of his own pocket to start this app to help international students. Essential hiring, again, this is someone that I know, and I do want to say all of these resources I've personally vetted, because a lot of the students that come here have a lot of mistrust with our community. And all of these people have their heart in the right place and want to help students. So I would not be putting any of our students in someone's hand that I personally didn't trust. So I just need to know that to let everyone know how important it is for me to work with the folks that I'm mentioning here. So essential hiring, again, very similar to iWorks. You log in, figure out how many hours you want to work, where you want to work, and they connect you without having to go into the office. Staffing group of companies is the last one. They're very unique because what they do is they realize that a lot of the international students don't have access to a car. So how would they have to get to work? What they've arranged is a ride service. There's a shuttle bus that picks them up from home, drops them off to work, and then drops them back home. So they don't have to worry about public transportation or their own transportation. So this, again, is, I think, a really great starting point for students that need an entry-level job or a job just to help pay the bills when they get here. So when the students come here, there might be some legal services that they might need help on. So it could be employment law, landlord-tenant issues, immigration, you name it. So the first organization is SALCO. It's the South Asian Legal Clinic of Ontario. It's a community legal firm that provides all type of legal services for students. This is run by a lot, the staff that's there have lived experience as an immigrant, as students, and they are very community focused. It's not about charging ridiculous legal fees. It's about helping students. The second law firm is UL Law. Sunish Uppal is the founder of, of this law firm. He's been amazing, supporting international students for over a year in partnership with SNO. Can I get the next slide, please, Arti? So community resources. In terms of counseling, Suno, the organization that we've started, has peer mentors. So we've trained about 20 to 30 peer mentors that are international students themselves. They are the ones that answer the phone calls, enter the text on social media, because they have the knowledge and they have the experience on answering the questions that the students need. I think it's more important for them to have someone who understands their struggles and the issues that they're going through. We have partnered with PCHS, so Punjabi Community Health Services, that provide mental health and addictions counseling, as well as settlement counseling. It's a one-stop shop. Indus is also another organization that's been helping international students. We've also partnered with them. And Nishat, who you'll be hearing from, she works for the distress centers of the GTA. So in terms of mental health and addictions, this would be a separate webinar in itself about what's happening with the international students here. But these issues have increased more and more with the students once they arrive to Canada. Suno's peer mentors, along with the community partners, are helping reduce the stigma around this within the community and to provide support to students who need it. So, you know, mental health is something that our community does not talk about. You know, whether it's in India or whether it's here, there's still a stigma associated with it. So a lot of the people just label it as something else, and it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. I feel like having these conversations now is important for a few reasons. A, because we're isolated because of COVID. B, if the mental health issues are not addressed, it could become worse and worse with other factors. And I think the third most important thing about mental health, especially coming here, and I mentioned this at one of our last webinars, is a student is coming here 17, 18, 19 years old, and they're coming to a new country, having to adjust to a new culture, being away from family, not having a support system. And all of those things factor with the loneliness. And if depression kicks in, it becomes a spiral. We have the resources now. We, even before the students come here, that we want to have these conversations so that they know that there is help. There in India through PCC, and here, once you get here, that we've partnered with organizations that provide that support. It's important that we talk about it, that we address it, but know that there's people that are compassionate and sensitive about these issues, and that are here to help. Can I get the next slide, Arti? So what I find interesting, and when I mentioned about the youth getting together and their network, so my background is in social work, but I worked in the labor movement for 12 years, so I have a very interesting background and passion. So labor and employment, there is a group of international students that have got together here in the Greater Toronto area, Ontario, and they have started the Nojawan Support Network. This is heartwarming for me, being an activist, but for these youth to stand up and speak out against things that are happening to them. So the Nojawan Support Network, what they've done is the labor issues here that are affecting international students are being affected and implemented on them by South Asian employers. So what this network has done is created lobbying and awareness about bad employers. So they protest outside of the employers' houses for not paying them on time, firing them without just cause, and hiring students, taking advantage of them. So they, in hundreds of students, will be protesting outside of these employers' houses because they haven't been paid. And this is not just $100, $200. We're talking thousands of dollars that these students are not paid. So they created this network. So when you do get a chance, those of you that are coming to Ontario, a very, very great group that will advocate on your behalf in case you end up in this situation. Now, here in Canada, when you come here and you're working for any job, whether you're working cash, whether you're working using your SIN card, the Ministry of Labor is there to help you. You can call them, even anonymously, and they will come and investigate to see what the employer is doing, if they haven't paid you, the working conditions, etc. That is a government regulated body that's what their job is to do. So that is your right, to have a ministry there to support you. The Labor Board is also there for those that are unionized. So there's the Ontario Labor Relations Board and then the Ministry of Labor. Ministry of Labor is for non-union workplaces, and the Ontario Labor Relations Board are for places that are unionized. And there's also agencies that we're working with to do employment prep. So a lot of the students have mentioned that when they come here, you know, writing a resume, interviewing, we do mock interviews with them, because a lot of the formats for interviews could be through Zoom, could be a panel, could be a group interview. How do you prepare? What kind of terminology? What kind of words? Help them get the confidence. So that's something that we're also supporting and helping these students. So on the webinar that we've done previously, I had mentioned that a lot of the students, once they come here to the airport, sometimes there's no one to pick them up. So once we heard about this, we're like, okay, so when these students do get picked up by a shuttle service that we've organized, what can we do to make sure that they have a little bit of home? And a lot of these students have never left home, don't know how to cook. So what we have done is we've partnered with restaurants to provide tiffin service. So veg and non-veg tiffin service delivered to them 5-6 days a week, depending on how many sabjis they eat or the whatever. That is customized to how you want it. So it makes the transition from being away from home less shocking. So you have someone picking you up. You have desi khana when you're here. I think it's important to keep that taste and feeling of home as long as possible. In addition to that, a lot of students, again, have only a certain amount of funds to sustain themselves while they're here for the year, the 2 years, while they're going to school. So I was thinking that I'm going to be reaching out to community partners and also be talking to the PCC Toronto chapter about this. But I want to organize a furniture and clothing bank. To have the furniture bank, so any student that comes here, we can say, listen, okay, you can pick, a couch, a sofa, you need a table, you need a bed, etc. So then that way the students don't have to put out of their pocket to get this. I'm looking to the community to donate the furniture so the students can essentially save some money and help themselves get set up. I've already started to talk to people about the clothing bank. Because the weather right now, I wish I could take a picture and send it to you all. We have 25 centimeters of snow outside. So Nishat, this is your probably the first snowfall, if I'm not like this degree snowfall for you. But coming here, especially during the winter, can be a shock in itself. And if you don't have the proper clothing, you can get frostbite fairly quickly. If you don't have the proper gloves and the proper boots. Growing up here, you're too cool, don't want to wear a hat and gloves. So, I used to walk around with my jacket open and my mom's like, "Tu bamar ho jana hai." And I said, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. Now, I went for a walk yesterday. I put on a hat, had a scarf, gloves. I'm turning into my mother now, but it's good, so I don't have to get sick. So I think it's important to have the proper clothes. One thing that we learn very quickly here in Canada, regardless of where you live, it's important to wear layers. If you don't have a jacket that can protect you against -30, -40 weather, wear a shirt, a sweater, a hoodie, That way, at least if you get hot, you can take the layers off. So that's one of my tips. Additionally, we have created a mentorship program. There might be some people that are on listening right now to the webinar that have joined Suno's mentorship program. We have, as I mentioned, we've recently been in the media, and a lot of the community has come forward, which I'm very grateful on how they can help. And this mentorship program, I think, is going to be very, very well received by our students, because a lot of these students don't have anyone here. And to have someone where, you know, if we need someone who's in the finances, someone who's a social worker, someone who's a lawyer, they can have a mentor that can help guide them and support them through the system here. And so that they know how to get to the career that they want with the support and the resources that these mentors will be providing. There's also a conversation that I had with someone who's a grandmother, and she said that, you know, she wants to be able to give the kind of support to these students that grandmothers can give. So I thought, okay, why don't we call this the Baby Project, right? So again, a lot of these students might be missing home, but the kind of love that they get from their daddies, their nannies, from their bibbies, this would be great to provide the support for the students. Can I get the next slide, please? Okay, so some barriers to seeking help. So, you know, I think seeking help for mental health or other issues, a lot of people think make you weak. You know, I can handle this, I can do this on my own. And I think for someone who is unable to take charge of their own life, I think they should realize this is not something that they should be doing on their own. Again, talking about suicide or asking someone if they feel suicidal is encouraging the person to end their life. So, you know, I think it's the types of resources. Nishat, do you want to start? This is yours.
Anupama, I would love to jump in here.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Would you like me to take over from here?
Please start from the beginning. Because I was like, oh my God, is this me? Okay.
No, not at all. Thank you. Like, you made my job so much easier. Wonderful. Okay. Hello, everyone, and my fellow Mumbaiker. It's my absolute pleasure to be here today. As Anupama has already mentioned, I'm a registered social worker here in Ontario, and I work with distress centers of Greater Toronto in the capacity of a program coordinator for the Survivor Support Program. More about that later. Distress Centers of Greater Toronto is the oldest volunteer-delivered crisis, emotional support, and suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention service agency in Canada. Before I jump on to the services we offer that could be of relevance to our amazing student community present today, I think I would like to take a few minutes to talk about some perceptions that may, have formed that can become possible barriers to access any support or services that may be available to us. As you've already heard from Anupama, we have some fabulous services available, but sometimes we find that people who need these services do not access them, even if they're aware about them. So I'd like to quickly cover 3 of the myths that I have come across through my work that I think is really, really important to talk about. Let's start with the first one. I feel addressing the first one is really crucial. Sometimes we may feel that seeking help, whether it is for mental health related issues, any adjustment issues we may be having, anything related to our employment, we feel like asking help for these things makes us kind of less of a person, or we may come across as weak or someone who's not able to keep their life together. Once we move here, we feel like, oh, we need to be independent in every way, and seeking help means that we are kind of saying that, hey, I'm not able to deal with this, which is not acceptable to a lot of us. This is obviously a myth. It is not true. And I would like to certify on this platform that we feel that people who reach out for support or help are the most courageous people out there. They are people who not only are very self-aware about what's going on with them and the environment, but they are also, they also have this amazing ability to pick themselves up and get themselves out of, any dark spaces they may find themselves in, which I think makes you a champion. Another myth that I'd like to talk about, and this is a fairly common one, surprisingly, is that if you talk about suicide, especially with someone who you think may be at risk or is having thoughts of ending their life, then somehow you're planting that idea in their head or kind of nourishing that idea. Fortunately, that is not how this works. I think what you end up doing when you talk about suicide, of course, in a respectful, inclusive, safe manner, is you create a safe space for someone who is, feeling overwhelmed or going through a tough time, and you're kind of normalizing, their emotions. You're acknowledging the fact that they're going through, some troubles. What this will help in doing is this will get the other person to open up to you. If you're lucky, they will kind of unburden, their emotions, and you will be able to get them the help they need. This would make you a hero because you'll end up saving a life. And it's true when they say not all heroes wear a cape. The third one that I'd like to talk about, and a really integral one again, is that this whole perception that, getting help here, especially mental health related help or any adjustment related help, is a really expensive affair. Well, we have a lot of interventions here and many levels of interventions. They are paid and unpaid. But all of the resources and services that we've shared today, and correct me, Anupama, if I'm wrong here, are absolutely free of charge for the students, which means we promise that they are not going to create a dent in your monthly budget. It's very normal and understandable for someone to feel that it'll burn a hole in their pockets, but it will not. So please don't stop that from, don't let it stop you from getting the support that you may need.
Nishat, can I just jump in one real second?
Yeah, sure.
Second? So just to add to what Nishat is saying, I think it's important to know that a lot of the services on campus and off campus, Suno is covering the cost for the services that are off campus. Some of the services, nonprofits cannot technically provide services for international students. They're doing this because we're raising funds to cover those costs. The federal government does not provide funding to nonprofit services, to most of the nonprofit services to provide counseling. So I just wanted to step in and say that.
Anupma, I'm sorry to butt in, but then, I may forget. This is again an important point which I want to highlight to both of you here, that, students may ask for help, but since Suno is asking for funds, they're collecting through sources, and these are all paid up facilities being provided. Do you verify is that the user who's asking for is actually a genuine one, so that, because it's an awareness that you created on this platform. So there could be students, with this knowledge, they would seek out, but is that actually the help needed, or is it that it's being imitated? So how do you verify this?
So what we do is we have an intake session and an assessment session through our peer mentors. So once they call, we figure out what level of crisis they're at and what kind of support that they need. So if it's employment, all these things that I've mentioned before in terms of resources, it doesn't matter. We'll still provide them services. But when it comes to the counseling, a lot of our peer mentors have, Guneet was one of our panelists. She has a master's of social work. She's one of our peer mentors. So there's a lot of assessment that happens before we send them to the nonprofit organizations. Great question, Harpreet. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Can I please have the next slide? All right, perfect. All right, so I will now move on to talking about some of the services we offer. Again, these are completely like free of cost. The first one is our crisis helpline. The best part about the service is that it is available 24/7, 365 days a year, including on holidays. And all you have to do to access the service is call the helpline you probably see on the screen. And you will be connected to a trained crisis responder who will support you if you're feeling low, upset, or in crisis. Now, by crisis, I do not just mean thoughts of suicide, but you may also be feeling a sense of isolation. You may be feeling helpless, hopeless, or even if you're just going through a rough day. I mean, there's no harm in using this service. We also have multilingual helplines in like 8 languages, which includes like Punjabi, Hindi, and Urdu, I think, which is a boon for our community here. I think nothing is more comforting than like hearing a friendly voice at the other end that speaks your language, especially when you're feeling like really overwhelmed. And like I can confirm that. Some of us may find reaching out by phone very, very overwhelming, and that's fine. I'm one of those people. In that case, you can use the text service. All you do is like kind of send a text on the number on your screen, and you will be connected to a live responder, again, who will support you in the moment and share any resources or services that they feel could like help you cope better with the situation. Then we have the Traumatic Loss Survivor Support Program. This is the program that I help manage. That supports individuals or families who have lost a loved one, a friend, acquaintance, maybe a co-worker, a co-student, to suicide or homicide loss. This does happen. And the intervention is based on like a peer support format, and we offer like one-on-one and group services. Outbound services like the touching base programs are also available, where you will be connected with like a volunteer who will check on you from time to time, or basically just support you to work through specific issues or concerns or even goals that you may have identified with them. I really encourage you to go through our website to know more. We are also on Facebook and Instagram. I would recommend that you kind of save any services or resources that you find relevant on your phone, or like in a small diary as part of your preparation before you come here. Don't wait to come here, then relook at all the services you may have. There might be a phase where you might be feeling really low and might not have the capacity to look at everything out there again. So I recommend it's really helpful you do that, because I had done that myself when I got here. Thank you so much for listening to me today. Can I please have the next slide? Thank you. We are looking forward to welcoming all of you here and to support you in whatever way we can. But please remember that we are all in this together. You don't have to carry this whole burden like by yourself. We know it's overwhelming at times. We've all gone through it. But it only like kind of makes you stronger and more resilient. When in doubt, always ask. I mean, you have so many people that you can reach out to you today. I was so amazed to hear some of the services that Anupama mentioned that I wasn't aware of. I wish I knew about them. At least I would get some ghar ka khana when I was here. It was like no one was here to pick me up from the airport, and it really like felt like it was overwhelming, right? Even though I didn't come here as a student. So please remember that we've shared so many resources with you, but the biggest resource you have is you. So make sure you do everything you need to do to, take care of yourself. Over to you, Anupama. Would you like to say something? I saw you unmute like in between.
No, I wanted to just say, Nishant, that what we're planning to do is a lot of these resources and people that we're partnering with, we're going to be adding them to Suno's website. So sunocharity.com. Yeah, we're going to have the resource information so that the students can come and check that before they come here. And Nishant, had I known you before, that's one thing that I always ask the students. Was there someone to pick you up? If I had known you, I would have picked you up myself. So
yeah, I would have loved that. But hey, it's okay. Maybe the next time I'm in India, we can do like a role play when I get back, and then you can come get me from the
I will with flowers and everything. Yes, great.
And Nishat, you can count on me. If you're in Mumbai, you land here, I'll come and pick you up very close to the
Oh,
airport.
thank you so much. Thank you
It's
so much. I
not
really
always in
appreciate that.
Canada.
Appreciate that.
I'll pick up Anupma and anybody coming down from Canada. It's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to host you guys. So moving further, I think you're done with your slides. Just to keep the session rolling as we always do, I have questions to both you ladies here. I am a question person, so please don't mind that, Anupma. Every time that in these 3 sessions, we've heard you talk a lot about volunteers supporting these organizations. So, Nishant, with your experience, do you think the volunteers who opt to volunteer are serious about their job there in Canada? Because in India, we have a different mindset. So, it brings out this anxiousness in me to ask you this.
Yeah, that's a great question, Harpreet. I see where you're coming from. And like we have this notion in India that, only people who have a lot of time on their hands or like are not able to find the right jobs go in for volunteering work. But fortunately, that's not how this works here in Canada. Here, people who are really, really busy actually take time out of their schedule to be able to really shape another life. And this is something I really appreciate about Canada. It's not someone random who will be like, just kind of connected to you, or someone random who will mentor you if you get a chance to, be mentored by someone. At distress centers of Greater Toronto, especially like the volunteers, we are a completely like a volunteer driven organization. So our volunteers are very carefully vetted, that they have to commit for at least a year of providing volunteering services. They undergo a really exhaustive like a training program where they have to learn skills of active listening, kind of being there for another person, being able to create a safe space. And I'm sure it's the same for Suno as well. So everyone who uses volunteers here, in fact, do it because like they share this willingness to be able to help someone out, and they do have the skills, the basic skills that may be required to kind of lead or help someone. So I think that answers your question.
Yes, it does. It does.
Okay.
So, the students are going to move to Canada. I think Indian students need to change their mindsets. That if you're doing a volunteer service here in India, it's very different when you contribute to a nation you're moving to.
Absolutely. And I'd just like to add one thing here, that the commitment is a two-way street. Many times we find that, the students will sometimes, get the help they need initially, and then they do not keep in touch, or, like life happens, or, they feel overwhelmed suddenly, or, have difficulty communicating. There are many barriers that they may be facing, and we acknowledge that. But it's important to talk about that. That's also a part of growing up here and integrating. For example, it's so important to be there for meetings on time, because that person is really removing time for you, and the person does not need to do that. So that is something that the students should remember.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
a
it's
great point. Yeah.
I think it's
Yes.
also important as well. A lot of the companies that you want to start to go and work for will ask for Canadian experience.
Yeah.
Volunteer experience is considered Canadian experience. Whether it's paid or unpaid, you are still getting Canadian experience.
Super. That's such an insight. Like in the beginning of the session, I had mentioned the students who've been attending our sessions, please do become members of PCC, GYC per se. Now, one question that comes to my mind here, Anupma, especially for you, because you're part of the PCC, the core team as well. So, do the students, if they say, I've been part, or I'm a PCC member, GYS, do they get heard, or would they get something, priority kind of stuff? Your guy, it does
So
that work.
So it's interesting. I mentioned, when I do mention PCC, I mention GYS at the same time. I feel like would they get priority? So I'm the kind of person that treats everybody equally. So in terms of my advice, so I've connected with a lot of the GYS folks throughout, before the sessions, during the sessions, and I know afterwards the sessions. I'm mentoring the students regardless. But I feel like the GYS students, they are spending a lot more time doing this kind of work. So I might spend a little more extra time with them, but even if, let's say, the GYS students are coming here, I will gladly mentor them and help them the best that I can. But
that was a very selfish question from my side, because
no.
I have a membership committee, so you have to excuse me for that.
No, that's fine. But it's interesting because we were talking about volunteering. So I started volunteering when I was 17. So these GYS youngsters remind me of myself, and I always try and pay it forward. So you know what? There's going to be a special place in my heart for youth regardless. But the GYS folks, I'm always available. My number, unless I'm sleeping, I won't answer my phone. But yes.
I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much for answering this kind of a selfish question, a professionally selfish question. All right. Any students who've got a question to ask, and put it in the chat box. We would be happy to have you ask your questions personally to the panelists here. These were certain my questions, but then, I'm so overwhelmed hearing so much insights from Nishant. And one line that comes to my mind is that if you have to take something when you are in need, you need to give when you have plenty, or something to give. So give and take is the process that will work when you are in a new place like Canada. So there is a question that is asked: what are the best scope for psychology in Canada? Question from Spriha.
The best scope for psychology in Canada. So it depends where you're going to be in Canada. So I'm going to answer this as specifically as I can. So I feel like if you want to be a psychologist, which age group do you want to work with, right? I think it would be good to figure out, do you want to work with children? Do you want to work with adults, seniors? Specifically, what is the kind of target group that you want to work with? And work yourself backwards. So it would be great. Okay, this is who I want to work with. How do you, which college, university do you go to? And do those universities and colleges specifically offer the courses that are aligned with what you want? I think that's something that I was meaning to talk about during the webinar. Pick a profession that you love, that you're passionate about, not that someone is choosing for you. So in terms of your scope with psychology, pick it accordingly to which demographic that you want to work with. And let's just say that you want to work with children, find a volunteer opportunity where you can gain experience from, because that would be helping when you're going to be graduating. But the major cities, I can tell you what universities there are, what colleges, but I think it specifically has to be the scope in terms of psychology is very broad. So narrowing it down to what demographic you want to work with will be helpful. But if you want to talk more about this, feel free to contact us offline.
Yeah, that would be just great. There is one question from Priyanka Sharma. Priyanka, if you're there, we would like you to switch on your camera and ask a question. Although we can read it for you, but it's always nice to connect. Okay, I don't see her, so okay, she's there. Yeah, Priyanka, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Priyanka,
Am I
we can
audible?
hear you. Yes, of course.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have done post-graduation in commerce from India, and I want to do further job in Canada. What are the further scope of the same stream?
Okay, so you've done your bachelor's in commerce, Are you looking to come here as a student or come here to work? If you could clarify that for me.
I have done masters in commerce,
Masters,
and
okay.
now I want to do job in Canada for job purpose.
Okay, so there's the labor market. So you'd have to go onto the immigration IRCC, so the Immigration and Refugee Center of Canada, and it's called the labor market assessment. What they do is depending on the educational background that you have, they're going to see how many people in Canada are applying for a similar role, and they will assess you accordingly based on your education, on your language level, and what career opportunities there are. What the Canadian government does is they offer those jobs to Canadians in Canada before they offer it to someone abroad. So it would be challenging to get a job in that field because they'll offer it to a Canadian first, unless you find an employer that's an international employer. Let's say you start working there in India, and that company has offices located across the world. That would be my suggestion on how to get your foot in the door to come here. Otherwise, it's going to be a lengthy process for you to come in terms of just finding a job in your field. You'd have to go through so many loopholes to get to that point.
Khushbu, would
Thank
you
you so
like
much,
to
ma'am.
ask your question? Khushbu, I see you on the screen. You have a question. Okay, I'll ask a question on her behalf. She's asking, how much does it make a difference to have done your bachelor's from Canada in India?
Great
So-
question.
Yeah.
I find that it depends on the field that you're working in and which organization or company that you're applying to get a job for. So I'll give an example. Guneet, who you've seen during the webinars. So Guneet has her master's in social work. She contacted me through LinkedIn. She was working as a security guard here. And so she had the experience, but it was about networking and knowing the right people. So now Guneet is working in her field because of her master's of social work experience in India. Some companies and organizations will look at the educational level at par, some will not. So it depends on who you're working for. I find that if it's nonprofit, they will take it into consideration and use that as experience, regardless if it's Canadian or Indian. But again, it depends on the field that you're working on and depends on the company and the organization whose job you're applying for. You know, a lot of people in the 90s, I was actually working for settlement where a lot of new immigrants were coming here, but they were told, oh, you're going to get a job in your field. That's not the case. They want Canadian experience. So essentially, a lot of the people had to go back to school while they were doing jobs to put food on the table. So just, that's my advice.
Mm-hmm. Jagtar Singh Matharu has a question. So Jagtar, if you're there, you can ask your question to the panelists yourself.
Yeah, hello, good evening, Anupama ma'am, Harpreet ma'am, and Nishant Virani ma'am, the Mumbaikar. Yes,
Oh my God.
I had a question that do we have any official trading courses in universities of Canada?
Yes, great question. So what has happened, I'd say over the past 5 to 7 years, is there's a lot of gaps when it comes to the trades here in Canada. So the government has put money towards universities and colleges to get people to do the trades. There's even some incentive where the government covers a lot of the costs to get certified in the trades. So it depends, if you want to do plumbing, even doing construction, etc., welding. There is a lot of money that the government's invested in that because they don't have enough employees to do that work. So yes, there's a lot of courses in the university and colleges that are specifically catered towards that want to do the trades. Great question, Jagtar Singh.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, ma'am, actually my question was that now I am in India and I am coming to Mount St. Vincent University in Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I may be coming in, I may come in May intake or September, as I am also preparing for exam in India, which is a CMT exam, as I work in Indian stock market.
Okay, I misunderstood. Thought you were talking about,
Yeah,
okay. Well, I'm excited that you're going to go to Nova Scotia. It's one of my favorite provinces outside of Ontario. So that question, I would not be the best person to answer because that's not my forte. But I would be able to get back to you, Jagdar Singh. I do know someone that is in that industry that would be able to help you and guide you accordingly. But my understanding is that there should be courses specifically towards let's say the stock market or the trades where you could use the experience that you have there to implement it here.
yes,
I think,
because I have,
Anupam, yeah, I
yeah, I
think
have
more of the
seen,
questions been asked are about the courses. So it's more of a consultancy on your study options available. No problem. Yeah, Jagta, go ahead.
yes, ma'am, the exam which I'm giving in June is the CMT exam, which is of USA. And I have went through the Google and I have find out that a Canadian Security Institution is a private limited company which provides. Yeah, am I audible?
You are now.
Now, yeah.
Okay, so perfect. As now, if like I am in India, I am working in the Indian stock market.
Mm-hmm.
And in Canada and USA, we have the Forex market, which is working 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't find any course in the universities for the trade. So I am coming in diploma for tourism and hospitality.
Okay.
Yes. So my major question is that is it possible if I am doing a diploma in tourism and hospitality resort operations management, after that, can I go for the stock market course? Is that possible?
You could, but Jagdad, so and this is the Anu Didi is coming out right now. Okay. So the hospitality and tourism, I get it, but to go in to do securities is a completely different program, right?
Yeah.
That's business focused. What you're doing is more on hospitality and tourism. Um, maybe you and I can chat about this offline because I think I want to give you some more advice, but absolutely you can do a private to do the private training around stocks and securities. I can help you connect you with someone around that, but that's additional money that is not related to your field that you're spending money on. So
Okay.
yeah, let's chat offline about that. It's a good way to get your foot in the door, but the hospitality and tourism course would be great as, getting here and getting Canadian education and experience. But the securities course is very, very demanding and time consuming. And, I laugh when you said it's 24/7 because here in North America, no one likes to sleep. They like to work all the time. So, but yeah, so let's chat offline, Jagdad, and I can see who I can connect you with.
That would be perfect.
Okay, and then if you're before you move, Jagdad, please, I can put you in touch with people that are in Nova Scotia. I know there's a lot of the students are moving out east, but I know people there that can help you get settled.
Yes, that would be a great help, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
That's super. There is a question from Dr. Rajshri Datta. So would you like to ask a question, Doctor? Okay. So let me just voice out her question. She says, how about the work-life balance generally across all kind of work segments in Canada?
So I'm laughing because the securities comment about 24/7. So it's very fitting. I think the work-life balance is super important. And I think what's happened is because of COVID, it's forced a lot of people to reflect. There is a quote that I saw that I share over and over again at the beginning of the pandemic, that if you can't go outside, go inside. And that has stuck with me because I feel that we are so fast-paced here, regardless of where you live in Canada. Toronto is the most fast-paced city in Canada. And, even driving, It's a perfect example. People, you trying to get into a different lane, they speed up. They don't want you to get into that lane, right? So like everyone's trying to get somewhere yesterday. You go to other places. I lived in Ottawa and I would signal and people would pull back and say, go ahead, right? Like it's a reflection of how people's mentality is based on where they live. If you're working 9 to 5, work 9 to 5. Shut your phone off as much as you can and spend time with yourself and with your loved ones. We have the weekends for those that don't have to work. Enjoy the time for weekend, because you know what? If you are going 24/7, you're going to burn out. So Dr. Rajeshwari, amazing question, because I feel that it's super important to take care of yourself, your mental health, and your physical health if you're working and helping others at the same time.
Yeah, I'd like to just add in like a few bits here. It's a great question. What I have come to realize is, as opposed to India, people are really, really possessive about their weekends here. Especially if you're working like Monday to Friday, you can't be like reaching out to people like off hours. So you have to like, set a boundary, and you have to respect the boundary that has been set by other professionals as well. So that's one good thing actually. So you have no choice but to like, connect within. You have ample of opportunities to do that, look around, go out. And we rarely see the sun these days. So whenever the sun is out, you will see that a lot of people will try and complete like their work and try and get as much sun as possible. I've never appreciated the sun more than I have in this entire year. I see why we pray to the sun, literally. And having said that, one great thing about like the work life here is that there is a lot of scope to, take breaks in between work. It's something that is a norm. It is not something that, you need to fit in your schedule per se. You also have a lot of like services available from work. So, say you are having a bad mental health day, or you're going through some trouble, you have an option of reaching out to the services associated with like your company as well. I hope I've answered this question.
Yes.
And Harpreet ji, I think it's also really important to know that the Canadian government, as much as I say things to them that I don't approve of, I lived in Texas for 5 years, and I really appreciate statutory holidays. So Canada, every month we have a statutory holiday, except for June.
Wow.
So talking about work-life balance, the federal government has made sure that there's at least one day a month that almost everybody has it off. So
Lovely.
Yes.
That's such a boon, actually, I would say. Jaspreet Singh has a question. I would just quickly read out that. If I wish to work in government's foreign affairs department, should I study global studies or political science as my bachelor's?
Maybe both. I'm just
Maybe
joking.
both. Yes.
So political science would be great. But what I think would be really good, again, here's my volunteering hat coming on. When you are studying, whether it's global studies or it's political science, connect with your member of parliament, right? Or MPP. So every city that I've lived in, I have connected with someone in the political party that I affiliate with. You are getting experience from them in a very ground level and tangible experience. So you'll be able to see how things operate at the municipal level, the provincial level, the federal level, and they're always looking for volunteers. So you will get inside experience on how the government is running, and maybe you can even get a job with that federal candidate if they get elected. So that's your foot in the door to get to see what the political climate is here. So that would be my tip. But yeah, both would be really, really good if you can do both.
So that
Sorry.
excites me to ask you, again, a question, like from the Indian perspective, when you have to get into a government job, you need those, hacks and pulls and pushes and connections that works here in India. And definitely in the internal systems where the governments are functioning, they would want to have people who are deeply connected or rooted to the country. Now, as a student, if somebody aspires to be part of the government, does he need to have a PR or should have stayed in Canada for a while? Or how does it work?
So it depends on what level. Like you need to have like government security, the higher you get working with the government official. And the reason why I'm saying this is PCC Toronto had our first event in November, December. We had 3 political figures that were there to congratulate us for starting the chapter. So PCC members are connected with politicians, but there was at least 2 volunteers that don't have their PR that were helping them with their campaigns. So they'll tell you this is the level in which you can help based on your security clearance. But the higher up you get, you need to have more security clearance. So
yes, so I think my question was quite relevant, and it's answered it's given us a lot of insight.
Great.
Super.
I would just like to
Yes.
add something for Jasprit here. Jasprit, I would recommend that a good idea would be to also look out for parliamentary internships that are provided. I happened to do one very recently, and it was an amazing experience. So if you're someone who wants to work with the government, it would be, a great way to kind of dip your feet in where they cover everything from public policy to, what a day looks like, at Parliament Hill, and, you name it and they have it. So I did one with Senator Yona Martin. They do have a process where you apply, and then they have essays that you have to write about a cause that you believe in. So it's pretty standard, yet it gives you an opportunity to really experience if this work is really for you. So I would highly recommend that you look out for those.
And if you get a chance to go to Ottawa, I'm a political person, so Ottawa is the capital of the country. I would go to a restaurant and run into former politicians, and I would be like, like I'm seeing a Bollywood star. Everyone's like, who is that? I'm like, that's a politician. They're like, and I'm like, so and they're approachable. You can have conversations with them. It's not like they're surrounded by tons of security, except if it's the prime minister. But yes, they're very approachable.
I think the Prime Minister is also approachable there in Canada. That's what we hear here in India.
Yeah, he is.
Yes. So I'm so happy to, have so much of lovely conversations for these 3 sessions. I don't see any more questions coming in, Anupma. What I would request the PCC administrative team is to get all of us together on an open platform where, like I mentioned in the beginning of the session, that if students, you've attended our 3 sessions or even 1 session, and if you feel something that you need to share with people out in the open hearing us on live platforms, a little, takeaway, a little testimony for all of us, we're putting in our time and energies into this. So anybody who would like to share some words of kindness for us? Maybe Aarti or Brinda could take us on one single platform. We are not the panelists to be visible, but all of us together.
Yeah. I'm just giving permission to everyone so that they can talk.
All right.
So, yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
Super.
Meanwhile, Jasprit, Khushbu, Jagtar, all of them are here, and they can give us a quick feedback.
Yes, that would be lovely, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to go.
Yeah, Jasprit, go ahead.
First, I would say felicitamo on completion of this series, and merci beaucoup for making our vision come true. I must say that all the 3 webinars were very articulate, Anupama ma'am, and they were quite entertaining as well. I now can prepare for a lot of things before reaching Canada in a few months, though, because I have received my visa and I'm so excited. So the best thing, when we were planning for these events, few months back, I imagined through these that I would widen my thinking process, and that is definitely has been achieved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I
Yes.
say something?
Yes, Khushbu, go ahead.
My
If you can
God,
switch on your camera, that will be just great. It's always good to see people, faces.
actually, I'm not in that condition to sit on the
Oh,
camera. I'm really sorry.
good, you acknowledge that. It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So
No worries.
finally, we are at the end of our series. It was such a memorable session. I wanted to say that in today's world, when everything is online and the one-to-one talk, person-to-person talk is limited through virtualization, we don't get to talk more effectively with anyone. We do not get the opportunity to have such resources. It in these hard times, GYS with the help of PCC is doing a great job providing you the right direction. Is everything we need to do right now in this tough situation by being their best ever mentors we can ever have. They can ever have is everything we are contributing towards our nation by helping our youth who are the future of our nation. I totally believe that many of us have gained a lot of by this Canada series for sure. Thank you for our speakers to deliver such a mesmerizing and knowledgeable sessions. There were a lot of people who needed help, and yes, we did it. That's the best thing. And
Super.
for sure, we are looking forward for more such amazing sessions with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like
Now
to
I guess
say
it's my
something?
turn now.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Jagtar.
By the way, I am in the condition to switch on the camera, but I haven't got the
Please.
option.
Why you don't have an option? Please give him an
I guess
option.
I guess that's the backend thing, and that
Okay,
could
no,
have been
no
done
problem.
while setting up the session. Yeah.
Okay,
So
no problem.
yeah.
Go ahead, Jagtar.
Yeah, ma'am. I just want to say that all the 3 sessions were par excellence. Literally par excellence. I got to know many, many new things about Canada, and it would be easy for me to do the packing, and I have a great mindset to come to Canada now. And once again, I want to say that all the 3 sessions were par excellent, and right now I can say a lot about the sessions, but I don't have that much words. Yeah, so that was all from my side. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Anupama ma'am, for taking GYS at this high level.
It's my pleasure. I'm so proud of all of you for doing this. You need to give yourself a lot more credit than you do.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. Do we have any other student?
Yeah, I would like to speak now.
Yes, yes,
So,
please.
yeah. So first of all, thank you very much, Anupama ma'am. It's really a great session. We had 3 sessions, and trust me, we want more sessions, I would like to say. Thank you very much, Harpreet ma'am. You have really put in those efforts. Like, it's amazing. Like, and the response we got from the students and even from the leaders were amazing. So we more kind of session in the future as well. Thank you, Nishant, for coming in. Thank you very much for joining in, everyone. Thank you very much, Rajeshri ma'am and everyone.
I think that's so nice. And with this, before we close this session, the final session, couple of things that I would want to highlight is that SUNO is one organization which is going to fill up the gap for all the new entrants into Canada. Of course, without any doubt, to the campus and off-campus help and the benefits that you can derive by being PCC GYS members. As far as all the services, offered, and we've spoken so much about mental health, counseling, tiffin services, transportation, so much that we've spoken. These are all vetted. I'm very happy that, this thought came to my mind, and Anupma did clear that it's all vetted. It's not that, anybody and anyone can just, of course, legal help, which is the need of the hour to the freshers who step into Canada. I'm so glad SUNO does that, and many more other organizations that we listed out today are a great resource for these students. More so, there are 3 P's which have been a takeaway for me for this particular session. That is, prepare yourself with the resources. You need to plan well with the resources, the list that you have, and also partner with the organizations and campuses and the organizations like Top Notch, Essential Hiring, staffinggoc.com, and the many more organizations which have been listed out. I think since these sessions have gone live, they will always stay on the virtual platform, so you can go back, watch it, take down your notes, because the presentation was being shared simultaneously. We were all chatting. Having said that, I would like to, thank each one of the students present here, all the students who have participated in all 3 sessions. For sure, you're getting your certificates from PCC as active participants. And on a personal note, I would like to thank Anupma Sharma so much. It's such a connect that I've built up with you for, all these 3 sessions that I've hosted. It's a great learning for me personally. Of course, with the student panelists, Nishat is here today, my co-Mumbaikar. You're most welcome anytime. Anupma, you're most welcome. Just need to give a call and I'll be there to pick you up. Nothing like that. But it's been lovely. It's been just lovely hearing. And whenever I am in Canada, anytime in future, for sure, it's not going to be in the time of need that I would call out or shout out, but for sure, I would like to meet you in person, each one of you.
Oh my God, for sure, for sure. I mean, we'll take you to some masala chai, and I know Anupama makes some kick-ass parathas.
I do. We'll be your welcoming committee at the airport here in Toronto, Harpreetji.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, each one of you. And thank you, PCC administrative team, who's been working to get us all together. And of course, GYS, you guys have been too good that you've got student community together. Definitely, we'll be working on more sessions whenever we get a chance to do that. Thank you all very much. Have a nice evening and a great weekend ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So I'm ending the session for all.